Hello, my name is Brian King, Project Manager for AudSoft Inc. Today we're going to be showing you the added features of AudBase version 2.39. Logging into this version is the same as previous versions, so your username and password will remain unchanged. When you log into AudBase, you'll come to your home window and simply click on Subject List. Here you'll see a few changes, first of which there used to be a button down here in this area for limit field search, which allowed you to hone down patients that you might be looking for in the database. We've expanded that and made it a little bit more accessible up here in the right hand corner, and now you can search by part or whole, last name, first name, as you were able to previously. And then also you can search primary ID or MRN number, for example, first name only, primary provider, or universal ID. And as with previous versions, the functionality remains the same. Again, we just make it a little bit more accessible for you. So if you're looking for somebody with a last name, with a specific last name, you can type in either their entire last name or just partial of their last name and hit search, and AudBase will pull the database for that specific patient that you're looking for. Another new button that you'll find is Refresh List. AudBase polls the server and brings down the most current data about every 30 seconds. We did have some issues in the past where audiologists were saving records and didn't find that that those existing reports were there quick enough. Sometimes there might be a lag in the communication between the workstation and the server for some reason. So the refresh list gets rid of all of that and basically allows you real time to pull the latest data down from the server. So when you click refresh list, you'll get the most current data down here. Again, that's usually brought down every 30 seconds or so from the server, so usually it's not a problem. But every now and again, if you do get a lag or some kind of communication issue back with the server, that'll take care of that. The letter tabs up here, again, are first letter of last name. That remains unchanged, and everything else here should look pretty familiar to you. Once you find the patient that you're looking for, again, just click on their name, and here you'll still see the list of audiograms with date stamps for any given patient. When I go into a new audiogram, it looks the same, but there is some added features here built into the PTA tab. Under sound field, if you click on this drop-down box, you'll now see that you can select tinnitus matching or bracketing. In order to do that, you simply click on that, highlight it, and then we can add that to the audiogram if you wish to. Under comments, we've added a few items here as well. Narrowband noise. If you want to specify in sound field, if you're using that as your primary stimulus, and you want to specify that in sound field for your thresholds, simply click on that, highlight sound field, or transfer that from the audiometer, and now you'll be able to see the sub N up here indicating that that threshold was collected using narrowband noise. Depending on your licensing and the equipment that you're using, we now are compatible with GSI, which we always have been, Inner Acoustics, and GN Odometric Madsen equipment. So if you have that equipment or will be purchasing that equipment, let us know and we'll get you licensed appropriately. And what this will allow you to do is launch the equipment modules from within AudBase. So if you're using Inner Acoustics equipment that uses Diagnostic Suite, you'll be able to click on this button. It'll launch Diagnostic Suite. You can go through, do your full test battery, and when you save out of Diagnostic Suite, AudBase will bring that data in here and store it into its database as the manufacturer's database. All things else on this tab remain unchanged, and again, it should look pretty familiar to you. On the speech tabs, here's where you'll visually notice some changes. The reference audiogram used to be almost 3/4 of this page. We've shrunk that down to a little bit bigger than a thumbnail size, allowing you to still reference it, but we wanted to do was blow up the test conditions here to give you better accessibility to to define your test conditions. This used to just be a small box that you could open up, and again, we just wanted to make it a little bit more accessible for you in order to define this. So if you wanted to record and define that you were using Spondees Live for SRT or SAT, it's as simple as clicking and dragging over to your specified test, and that'll be defined here. There's not a place in the standard reports for this to be designated, so on the actual report you won't be able to see this. If you have custom forms, then we can certainly utilize this functionality if you want to make this stated on the report, or if you want to put this in notes on the standard report, there is a drop down now for you to be able to do that. More importantly though, if you do define it, we can go back and search it. Again, with everything within AudBase, whatever you collect, everything and anything, we can search that. So if you do define this, we can go back at a later date and find anybody and everybody that you did SATs for and you collected it using Spondees Live. Similar with WordRec, again, we give you the reference audiogram, but we do blow up your test conditions. This list is user definable, so we can populate this as we probably have already for you. But if we haven't, you can populate this with the word lists that are most commonly used by your clinic. And then again, it's as simple as pointing and clicking over. This version of AudBase allows up to 8 WordRec trials for our cochlear implant customers. This was a request, so we added that in. And again, it's just as simple as pointing and clicking over. If you want to define each individual trial, you can do that. Or if you know that you're going to be using NU6 word list live for all 8 trials or any of the trials that you record, simply click and drag it onto the header monaural right, and that'll drop the appropriate word list into all trials. And of course, I selected WD25 live there, not the NU6. If you made a mistake and want to go back in and change that, that's as simple as going back in and making that change. Also, if you want to specify conditions, we give you that option as well, so you can specify left ear, right ear, aided. As far as recording the information, that remains the same. Your trials are listed here, 1 through 4, and then if you want to record 5 through 8, simply click on that, and that'll now give you the 5 through 8 designation here. On the TIMPS tab, a few changes here. Depending again on the version that you're coming from, you may or may not have had the gradient fields in version 2.39. Obviously that is present. If the equipment transfers that, then we'll collect it automatically. If not, then you can manually enter that data, designate milliliter or decapascals, and then manually enter that. Or again, if the instrument allows and transfers it, we'll collect that automatically. Curve type can also be defined now, and that's simply clicking on a drop down and selecting the appropriate curve type for the test. A few other changes here. If you do have the graphical representation of the graph here of the tympanogram, and you click on Draw TIMP Box, it'll just draw a normative box in the TIMP, so you or the physicians can quickly look and see if the peak is within that box. Then you know it's quote-unquote normal. And then finally, the TIMP notes. If you do just a report, just a TIMP report only, if you select that as your standard report, you didn't collect any audiometric or speech data, and you want to just print out a tympanogram, you can do that, and these notes will be populated within that report. If you read the fine print down here, it does indicate though that TIMP notes will not automatically print out on audiogram forms. So if you are doing your standard report and with the audiogram, the tympanogram, reflexes, masking, and all the speech data, this information won't get printed out on that report. But again, it is a searchable field, so it is something that you can come back and search at a later date if you need to. Reflexes remain unchanged for this version. And then notes field, there are a couple changes here. First of which is check note print area. This is sort of a word count, if you will. This allows you to see if you've gone on to a second page. So if, for instance, you did your notes and you're really trying to keep it to one page, this feature allows you to come in, click the drop down, select which report you are printing to. Usually we'll set you up as standard style number 2. So I'll select that, and you'll get a couple prompts here and then a pop-up indicating that excess notes which will not fit on audiogram standard style 2, which is the one we selected, and will be printed on continuation pages are highlighted. And then, so it's going to highlight the verbiage that is going to go onto the second page, so that you'll be able to look at it and determine whether you can maybe shorten your notes to get it back on the one page, or if the one continuation note page is going to be required. So when I hit OK here, you'll see that there's 2 lines that are going to go onto a second page. If you want to be able to keep it to one page, then simply maybe cut down on your notes a little bit. And then get back to what would fit onto the one-page report, and you'll be all set. The much asked for and much awaited spell check is now part of AudBase version 2.39. When you click on that, it'll just go through obviously your notes and find anything that it believes is misspelled. It's just an English dictionary to start with, so it might find some audiometric terms and deem them as misspelled. As you add those to the dictionary, this will become a custom audiometric dictionary, if you will, for your clinic. So when you do it, it does give you the option to add verbiage to the dictionary. One other change is other information. This has always been available, though not necessarily always used. This is kind of a catch-all field, so we have customers that are using it for just to collect screening OAE results, for instance. So if you can imagine this field being an OAE field, and then maybe DPOAE right, DPOAE left, pass refer, and then then over here you could select pass refer. So that option is still in this version. We did keep that. But what we allow in this version now is if you did record something there, A, this is searchable, B, you're now able to click and drag this down into your notes field if you want to. So we do give you that added functionality, and if that's something you're interested in implementing, then we can work with you on that. One of the key features of this update of AudBase is the print to doc feature. What this does is now, instead of using a third-party program or having to always name your reports and direct your reports to a certain file folder and doing all that manually, AudBase does it automatically behind the scenes. So we'll set it up initially to save your report, typically to a folder called Audio Reports, is where most everybody saves their reports to now. So if it's a different location, then we'll set it up to wherever you've been saving your reports. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to save them to an Audio Reports folder. So what I've done is in Preferences set it up to save it as the patient's last name, first name, and the study date. So if you come into File and select Print to Audiogram, that's going to automatically save that report to that Audio Reports folder, name it for me, and date it for me. So that's all you have to do to create an image of this report. Now if I go out to my Audio Reports folder, I had saved the previous one, so you'll see that, but you'll see the last name, first name, and then the date stamp of the test. I saved another one earlier today, so it'll automatically name the next one 001, 002, 003. If you save multiple reports of the same patient, same date, that's the naming convention for it. And then you can go back in, and then certainly you can click on that audiogram, obviously, and it'll pull it up and show you that audiogram. Or you can go into your electronic medical record and manually attach that. Back into AudBase, one of the other changes, depending on the version that you're coming from, is an electronic signature. So when you're all done your report, when you click OK, this looks at whoever the default audiologist was for this report. In this report, it was myself, so it sees that and puts in my electronic signature. I have the option, if I want to save it with the signature, I just double click on my name and that'll save the report and automatically put my signature on the report. If I want to save it without the signature, I click on Save Without Signature. The difference between these two, obviously besides putting the signature on, is because of HIPAA regulations, if and when you sign a report with your signature, that'll seal that and stamp it completed. So you won't be able to go in and modify that report. We're making the assumption, and we need the needed assumption, that once you sign a report, that's it, it's done. If you know you're going to need to make changes to that report, then simply save it without signature, and that'll save it to the database, allow you to come back in at a later date, later time, and make modifications, finish your notes, do whatever you may need to do on that report, and then at that time you can sign the report with signature and lock it down. So that's about it with the added features for version 2.39. If you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. Again, my name is Brian King from AudSoft Inc. Thank you very much for your time.